And welcome back to everyone, Respect and another edition of NXT Out of 10. This was a post-Great American Bash episode, so it dealt with all of the fallout from the show. None of the titles that are on the line changed hands, but we did see a couple of surprises this weekend. Not only did Javon Evans defeat the gigantic Jasper Troy, but we also saw Blake Monroe turn on Jordan Gray. So yeah, without further ado, let's get straight into things. And we opened up with a recap of the Gab and Evolution before we went to Fatal Influence's entrance. Jane alluded to Jasmine Nix being the reason that they lost to GAB, but she said that Fallon and Henry redeemed themselves at Evolution. Masha Slamovich from TNA showed up and said Blake Monroe is the only reason JC still has the title. Jane said that she would be the Knockouts title before Zara and Soraka interrupted her. The babyface ended up sending the heels out of the ring and it turned into a fight. This is obviously done to set up the segment later on, but yeah, it's a pretty standard heel promo. She's done a good job so far as champion, but it feels like the group's close to ending. WWE-wise, it would be wise not to stretch it out for too long. Before we got Dark State versus Mike Santana, Trick Williams and Joe Hendry in a six-man tag. Of course, these three men will be fighting for the title at Slammiversary. And yeah, Santana took out all of the men with a big dive over the top rope to take out all four members of the group to get the action going. Sugars and Santana were the first legal men for their teams before Lennox and Griffin were the other two members of DS who worked the match while Cutler James stayed outside. Once Dark State regained its footing, Griffin took control as the show went to break. It took only a couple of minutes after he returned for Santana to make the hot tag to Hendry. The match fell over a familiar pattern. It got more chaotic as it went on and had a couple of fun moments, but things broke down when the system from TNA showed up and went after Dark State. Most of the match was fine, but nothing of note really happened until the throwaway ending, so it ended up being a bit of a wash. I can see what they're trying to do, but I still don't think Dark State, just like operating in normal tag rules, really makes particular sense to be honest. So yeah, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. It was then time for Kyle Petrovich to take on Callie Armstrong for the Evolve Women's title. The match only got going for about a minute before Gray showed up and took out both women to cause a no contest finish. She called out Monroe to explain her actions at Evolution. Monroe appeared on the big screen for her tub to respond. And yeah, wasn't really a lot to this, to be honest. Would like to get more detail, but I guess that'll come in a couple of weeks. Classic heel stuff, but yeah, whatever. Moving on to Tony D versus Channing Sax Lorenzo versus Luca Crucifino. The family's in shambles, and this week saw Tony D face off against his two former partners in a triple threat. All three had very good reasons to hate each other, so this was very much every man for himself. There was no temporary alliances being made right away. All three men were throwing hands right from the start. Stax tried to retrieve a crowbar he planted, only to find it had been removed, which gave Tony D a chance to take control. Even though Luca was a big part of the match, it felt like the feud between Stax and Tony D took priority. They've been fighting for several weeks, so they had more time to build up the tension. The Don ended up spilling Stax through the wall, below Crow's Nest, and then threw him back through the hole. He put Luca through the announce table before hitting Stax to his finisher to get the win. Much of this match was business as usual, but the last couple of minutes really picked it up and turned it into a fun outing. And yes, that's like an intriguing story for the Heritage Cup as well. So yeah, intrigued to see where it goes, and a pretty fun outing, I've got to say. So 6 out of 10. In our main event, it was Fatal Influence versus Masha Slamovich, Solrika and Zarya. Briggs came out to explain why he turned on Inamura. Obafemi told Briggs he would have won either way, but Briggs ruined the match because of his jealousy. Inamura showed up and it broke down into a fight that was quickly broken out. The week's main event, followed by that 6-woman tag match set up during the opening segment. Fatal Influence took control after the initial opening and had Slamovich corner, but the TNA Knockouts champion fought back until it was down to her and Jane. The heels had control heading to the break and kept Ruka isolated from her team. We returned to see Zarya get the hot tag into the final part. Damon Paxley came out and all hell broke loose as the Cullen got into a fight at ringside. Slamovich was able to get the win by her team pinning Jane. Yeah, it gets 6 out of 10 for me. I thought it was pretty solid, made Slamovich look good, and I'm definitely interested to see more of her on the shoulder. Except for that, yeah, it kind of feel a bit rushed, nothing really major on the line. So yeah, I'm going to give it 6 out of 10. And overall, this week's edition of NXT gets a 5 out of 10 from me. Of course, we had to deal with the fallout of T-Pay feuds, and the show managed to juggle it all. It did feel a bit lacking in terms of storylines. The triple threat with Tony D was really good, and the women's division got a lot of attention. But yeah, I don't know, we just didn't really get as high profile episodes as maybe I was expecting on this show, to be fair. So yeah, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10.
That's it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to like, share, subscribe, follow us on our socials, link in the description below for daily wrestling news, meme and content. Subscribe to our other channels on screen right now, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks very much for watching. Peace out.